Okay, we're gonna let Mr. Jim Nicol open the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Masters. As City Clerk, this is the first official meeting of the 2021 year for the Regina Police Board of Commissioners. With that, I will call the meeting to order, and the first order of business will be with respect to the appointment of a chairperson of the commission. So if there are nominations for that, I would entertain those now. Councillor Bresciani?
I will nominate Mayor Sandra Masters.
Okay. Councillor Bresciani has nominated Mayor Sandra Masters for the position of chairperson. Are there any other names being put forward for the position of chairperson? With that, I'll ask members then to, all those in favor of Mayor Masters serving as chair for the 2021 term? All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. With that, Mayor Masters, I'll turn it over to you for the naming of the vice chair and the remainder of the agenda.
So I'll call for a nomination for vice chair. Okay, I would call for a nomination for vice chair of the Police Commission. Councillor Stevens?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Jada Yee.
Thank you. Any other nominations for vice chair of the Police Commission? Seeing none. Hello, Vice Chair Yee. All right, I believe, I just want to double check we have oaths of office have been signed by everyone. Thank you. I think I would like to open up the meeting before we get started into the agenda, if that's all right, with some introductions. And I would frankly like to start with your staff, Chief Bray, if that's okay. Sorry, I'll turn that on for you. Elaine and I won't fight about this.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to our new 2021 Board of Police Commissioners. I believe Commissioner Kalina Paul is also joining us virtually. That's correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, we're excited. This is a new look and a new face for our police board, and it's something that our team is really looking forward to working with this group and giving you some information and working collaboratively with you in terms of moving the needle and making some positive changes in a bunch of different arenas when it comes to community safety in our community. And so we very much are excited and respect the wealth of knowledge that our new board members bring. Everybody's coming from various different backgrounds and experiences, and that is really, I think, what is going to strengthen our unit. So I believe I know everyone here. My name is Evan Bray, Chief of Police for the Regina Police Service. The team that we've got here today is very much the team that you're going to see regularly at board meetings. I rely on this crew to do a lot of the work, if I'm going to be very honest. They do a lot of the work that makes our organization as successful as we've been. They're a highly talented group of people, and I couldn't be more proud to have the team that we do. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to start with Deputy Chief Ray, and we'll introduce the couple that we have here. But I'd like the rest of our team, if you don't mind, to come up, and maybe we could activate one of the microphones on the left-hand side there, and you could just take your mask off for a second and introduce yourself to this group. So we'll start on my right here.
Good afternoon. My name is Dean Ray. I grew up in a small town, moved into Regina many years ago to go to university. After I was done there, I joined the police service, and I've been part of the police service for 31 years now. So I'm one of the old guys on the block here. So welcome to the board. I look forward to the board members that have been here in the past and the new members working with you to educate you and answer any questions that you're going to have, and look forward to a great year. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Katrina Swan, and I am legal counsel to the Regina Police Service, and I'm also the board's solicitor. I've been a practicing lawyer since 2001, so 20 years I've been practicing, and I've been working with the Regina Police Service off and on since about 2005, but in-house full-time since 2017.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of the Commission. I'm Superintendent Lauralee Davies. So I'm in charge of the Community Services Division. The Community Services Division is all of our uniformed officers, so all of our patrol officers that are out 24/7, our school resource officers, our traffic safety unit officers, our PACT team, which is our police and crisis team, our TRIP team, and our hub table representatives. And Crime Stoppers. So basically anybody that you see in uniform for the most part falls underneath the Community Services Division. I have 23 years of service, and I'm one of 3 superintendents with the police service, and looking forward for a great year. Thank you very much for stepping forward and being a member of the board.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of the Commission. My name is Elizabeth Popowich, and I've been with the Regina Police Service for 23 years. I'm manager of our Public Information and Strategic Communications section. We are now a section of 4 people, myself, our Media Development Officer, Mr. Les Parker, our Social Media Officer, Ms. Christine Shire, and our Communications Strategist, Ms. Lindsay Holmson. And we very much look forward to working with the board in the coming year. Thank you.
Just as the other presenters are coming up, Elaine just mentioned to me that I was offside and taking my mask off. The rule is you have to leave it on. So let it be known the chief broke the rule first. But just for the rest of my team, I guess we'll leave them on. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of the board. My name is Darcy Cook. I am the Superintendent in charge of Support Services Division, which is a brand new division which we implemented in 2020. And my division looks after all our emergency services teams, our communication center, our front desk, our detention center. And also we have some plainclothes officers in our cyber crime and tech crime area, and forensics. So I have a little bit of both. I have uniformed officers, and I have some officers working plainclothes. So I'm not quite as old as Dean. I'm older than Dean, but he has more service time than me. I just started my 30th year in January, so happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the board and working with you and hearing from all of you during the year. So looking forward to the year. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Trent Stevely. I'm the executive officer to this team. 27 years. I work with media, professional standards, cultural diversity unit, and I'm forgetting one. Professional standards. Yeah. Strategic services, that's right. They will be providing the bulk of the reports, data, and information for. How could I forget them? And my apologies, sir. I know I probably insulted you by forgetting that group. But I look forward to working with you this year. Nice to meet you.
Hello, my name is Tracy Raisin. I'm the manager of financial services. This is actually the start of my 20th year, so I actually have 10 years with the City of Regina in the finance department. And now this is my 10th year at police in the finance department, so 20 years in altogether. I'm a proud member to be working with both sides. We have a team of 4 that processes all the financial information. So you'll see me every quarter, and then near the end of the year, every month, presenting things like variance and the budget. Thank you for all stepping forward, and I look forward to working with you.
And I think the only member of our team that's not here today is Superintendent Corey Zaharik. Superintendent Zaharik is our superintendent that is in charge of our investigative services division. So that's all of our investigative teams, predominantly not in uniform. So everything from property crime, street crimes, fraud, major crimes, those types of investigative services. And he's on a week off this week, actually. So that's pretty much our team. I don't think sorry? Oh, and Joe, that's right. Joe Baumgartner is also not able to be here. Joe is our executive director of corporate services. So Joe, if you think of it in terms of an org chart, we've got underneath the deputy chief, we've got 3 superintendents, 2 of which you met today, and then we've got an executive director of corporate services. That's Miss Joe Baumgartner, and Joe is in charge of things like human resources, IT, financial services would fall underneath her area as well. So it's a lot of the administrative side or corporate services side of our organization. And so that's our team. And again, we really look forward to working with you. It's been said a couple of times, and I think it's worth repeating one more time. The fact that you were willing to put your hand up and say, yeah, I think I'd like to be on this board is really appreciated, because this is a lot of important discussions that we're going to have. This is something that we hold very near and dear to our heart, policing, community safety. We love this community as much as this group of people that are on our board do. And so the ability for us to work together, I think, is going to be outstanding. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief. Now, if I could ask the newly appointed commissioners to introduce themselves, starting with Juliette.
Your Worship, thank you. My name is Juliette Bouchy, and I am very excited to be here, and I thank you for having me. I am also a board trustee with the Regina Catholic School Division. I am also an educator. I teach as a sessional at First Nations University. I'm also a graduate student, PhD candidate with the Faculty of Education at the U of R. And I am very excited again for the second time to be here, and I look forward to working with everyone. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Councillor Boucher. Councillor Stevens?
Thank you. My name is Andrew Stevens. First time on the Board of Police Commissioners, City Councillor for Ward 3.
Councillor Bresciani?
Thank you. I am grateful to be here. Last term tried to get on the committee, very hard to do, so I'm really grateful to have the opportunity. I am the councillor for Ward 4, was elected in 16 and then acclaimed here in 2020. And I have to also add that Councillor Stevens and I were the two that kind of brought the motion forward to add more diversity to the board, and it's so great to see. So that's it. I want to say thank you, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Let's see if I get the right one. I think I do. Commissioner Griffith.
Hi, my name is Yashu Better. I have been in Regina native from last 20 years. I've raised 2 children. They are both in university now. And I live in Councillor Bresciani's ward. I have been on other boards, including Arcola East Community Association. My greatest purpose of this is that to learn and understand the issues that might be there. I certainly understand that there are challenges ongoing with the community service, and how we can be part of it. I really like to learn and participate. And I currently work as a Director of Business Intelligence and Data Analytics, serving 2 ministries, Corrections and Policing and Justice. So I've been in this role for the last 5 years. And by all means, I started as a data nerd, but I wanted to be going more towards the business side and working with the, all of you. And I'm looking forward to learn something new.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffith. Commissioner Yee.
Thank you there, Your Worship. My name is JD Yee. I'm entering my 3rd term here on the Police Commission. I'm happily married for the past 20 years, and I've 4 children. And I'm honored to represent a couple of communities here. I represent, of course, the Indigenous community of Regina. I'm a proud member of the Wood Mountain Lakota First Nation here in Treaty 4 territory. I'm also very proud of my other heritage, which is from Chinese, Cantonese heritage as well. So I represent those, and I'm very honored to, be here on this journey. I want to thank the past commission for helping me out for these past couple of years. Michael Fougere, Barbara Young, Joel Murray, Vic Pankratz, and even Elaine Golke for helping me to get to where I am today. I want to welcome with open arms our new commissioners. I shake hands with every single one of you, even though we can't do it in COVID times. I'm very honored to work as a Director of Business Development here for our local tribal council and FH2 development. And in my spare time, I'm also an instructor for First Nations University of Canada, which I'm a proud alumni from there as well. And I'm also just achieved my master's in administration and leadership, where Councillor Stevens was one of my teachers. So hopefully making him proud. So, but thank you, honored to be here, and I look forward to this next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Yee. I'm going to get better at not calling individuals counselors when we're sitting around here. I'll call you commissioners. I'll get there. I just wanted to point out that on my left, the secretary of the Board of Police Commissioners is Elaine Golke, and she's the one that produces all of our documents and helps manage what it is we do here. And on my right is Jim Nichols, City Clerk for the City of Regina, and all things protocol he understands that we perhaps don't. Am I missing anyone? Oh, I apologize. Commissioner Kalina Paul, you're online, I believe.
Hi, I'm going to try video here. I'm not in the best environment. Good afternoon, Your Worship. Thank you, fellow members of the board and team. I was born and raised here in Regina. I'm not sure. Can you see me there? It's not showing up on my screen. Born and raised here in Regina, a member of Cowessess First Nation, and also a mother of 7. I'm really excited for 2021 and the achievements and impact that we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paul. And I'm Senator Masters, Mayor of the City of Regina, and this is my full-time job now. It's what I do every day. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be here and to be chair. Thank you, but also to work with you, Chief Bray, and your incredible, dedicated staff. So, having said all that, we're going to move on. I need a motion for the adoption of the minutes from the meeting held December 15th, 2020. Commissioner Bresciani, may I have a seconder? Thank you, Commissioner Yee. Do you want to call a vote or all in favor? Jim? All in favor? I think we're good. I need approval of the public agenda. Can I get a motion? Commissioner Yee? Now you got a seconder. Commissioner Bresciani? Thank you. In terms of administrative reports, the first report is PO 21-1, monthly crime statistics from November of 2020. Chief Bray?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Masters. What I will say just before I get into this report is that the agenda looks light today, and that was by design. We knew that we had, this was our first official meeting of the new board, and so we wanted to allow some time. We transitioned from the public meeting to the private meeting, and then after that, some time just for us to have some dialogue about some upcoming reports. We have an agenda that we're going to be sharing with the Board of Police Commissioners over the next couple of weeks that has an outline of what the report structure looks like for the next year. There's a lot of information that we want to get in front of you, but we're looking for some input in terms of a couple of points. So on purpose, this report and this board meeting is fairly light, but you won't get away necessarily this lucky every month because there's a lot of information that we need to bring forward and have some discussions with you. So at every board meeting, we do discuss crime stats in the public forum. And so today you've got 2 board reports just because of the timing of both the election and our December meeting. You've got both the November and the December crime stats. So, Your Worship, I'll leave it up to you if you would like me to run through both of those reports at the same time. Essentially, the information is very similar, and then questions can pertain, if you'd like, to the overall report. So, with regard to report P21-1, that's the monthly crime stats for November of 2020. I'm going to spend less time on this one than I will on the next. We break it down into crimes against property and crimes against the person. So crimes against property has reflected a decrease in November of 35.6%. And in that, theft of auto rates were down 44.6%. Crimes against the person, which are your more serious crimes, the assaults, the serious assaults, homicides, attempt murders, those types of things, they were down 4.9% decrease. And so not as significant of a decrease. When you combine both categories overall, we're seeing a 30.7% decrease in crime stats as of the end of November. If we transition to the December report, So this is the crime stats for to end the year of 2020. Crimes against property reflected a decrease of 5,500 incidents. That's a significant number of incidents down from the previous year, and an overall year-to-date decrease of 34.6. Things like theft under $5,000, mischief, which includes graffiti, damage to property, those types of things, and theft of auto rates all decreased noticeably through 2020. Crimes against the person, again, the number of incidents and the decrease was lower than our crimes against the property. So the overall decrease was 4.3%. I always remind people that each of these stats, behind each of these stats is a person. And so the number of 132 less incidents in crimes against the person is positive, because that's 132 less people that were victimized in a serious way in our community. Robberies is something that we track on the side as well, because robberies has been a challenge for us over the years. We saw 33 less robberies in 2020, so that's a 10.8% decrease overall. Overall, the crime rate decreased in our city just under 30%, 29.7% decrease. In our reports, after you've got the written report that's got the stats, there's a bit of a breakdown. You see a monthly statistical extract there. There's a bit of a breakdown in the different crime classes. One thing that we talked about at the last board meeting was adding or amending our stat report and our extract to include things like domestics, attempt suicides, mental health calls, those types of things. Those aren't true crime stats. So at the mid-year part, when CCJS comes out with a crime stat and a crime severity index, they don't measure those types of things. They only measure the things that we have on the paper here today. But I think in terms of the discussions that we have with the board, it would be good to add that. That's dialogue that we've had with you before. So we will be adding that, and we will be including some COVID reporting as well. I believe one of the councillors at the last meeting had brought that up. So we will include COVID reporting in that. As well, if you keep flipping through the stats, it then starts breaking it down by area of the city. And so they've got a bunch of different locations in the city where they break it down, and those locations are along the top of the page, and then along the side you see the crime, the types of crimes that we're measuring: arson, assault, attempt murder, B&E, which stands for break and enter to a business, garage, and other. But then as you go further down, there is other criminal code, provincial statutes, special inquiries, and I know we've had some dialogue around that as well. So in our new look stat package, we will also have a glossary at the back that will include information that lets you know what's in those. So for example, the category that says special inquiry, that includes things like disturbances, domestics, drugs seized and found, missing persons, injured persons, lost property, sudden deaths. There's a variety of different things that don't, if a person dies in their home, police have to attend that, but that's not a crime stat and not something that we measure in our typical stats package. So being able to give you this breakdown, I think, will help people understand what types of crimes are happening in different areas of the city. So we will have that added on to the back of the package as well, and I think it will give you a little bit more meaningful look at the stats and what they mean. So I'll stop there and turn it back over to you, Mayor Masters, for any questions that you or the board might have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions with regards to the report? Commissioner Bresciani?
Thank you, Mayor Masters. So just a question in regards to the domestic violence, the stats that you indicated. Are they recorded at all in any against crimes against persons? Like, are they included in those at all captured at all? And because I know we've heard that it's been on the rise, like we know that it went from 18 calls a day to 28. So, everything in the report says everything's kind of been reduced. So can I just get a response to that,
Sure.
please?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that in and of itself is the reason that we can give you some what I'll call bolstered up reporting. So Let's look, if we look at the monthly crime extract for December of 2020, if you just look at assaults, they've got level 1, 2, and 3. So level 1 assaults, 2020 year to date was 1,083. But that doesn't tell you what type of assault. Was that a domestic assault? Was that a bar fight? Was that children at a school? What really was the story behind that? All that measures is the number of assaults. Deputy Chief Ray just gave me our domestic conflict calls for 2020, and the total reportable incidents, domestic incidents in 2020 that we went to were 6,166. So you can see, even if every one of those level 1 assaults, which is 1,083, was related to a domestic, that's only 1/6 of the domestic related calls we go to. Some of the stats in the mischief category could be as a result of a domestic. Some of the robbery, let's be honest, sadly, some of the homicide stats could be attempted or attributed to a domestic. And so you're right, there is you're looking and measuring at two different things. One is the call for service that we went to, and then the other is what's the corresponding charge that came out of it? What does that look like? And so we go to an unwanted guest. I'm throwing out a number, but let's say we go to 3,000 unwanted guests. There could be a variety of charges that come out of that, or there could be no charge. Maybe we just transport a person to a safe place where they can spend the night or whatever. So within each of the domestics or other calls for service, we go to, attempt suicides, we go to drug-related calls, we go to mental health-related calls. They have a web of potential charges that could come out of it, but knowing that a lot of times, in fact, I probably would say the majority of times, there isn't a charge associated to it. It's more of the kind of that social challenge that we're navigating.
Thank you. So again, so then how would that help us with statistics that we would want and the public should know? So if we're talking about domestic violence, because when you read the report, it says that we're down in a lot of the categories, most of them, but even the crime against the person is, minus the 140 incidents over. So I guess I'm just wondering, because for reporting, it's really important that we understand as the community that these are on the rise, and it helps us when we go to work in the community or decide how we want to assist to try and combat this.
Right.
I mean, if we don't have those stats, how do we get those?
Yeah, so that's part of what I'm suggesting our reporting is going to look like on a monthly basis. And this reporting is obviously available through our website. Like once it goes to our board and is part of a board package, it's available publicly as well. But we're proposing that we would include things like domestic conflict calls. Deputy Chief Ray has a tactical coordination meeting that he has on a weekly basis, and those types of things are measured. There's a lot of those calls where it comes in as a domestic, it comes in as a drug-related complaint or someone with a mental illness, those types of things. And so we will be able to categorize those, and the problem is there's no direct lines. You can't say because it's a domestic dispute there was an assault. There may be no criminal activity. There may be a threatening charge. There could be a stalking. It could be a restraining order. There's a whole litany of things. So police reporting can get very complicated and detailed. And so it is my hope that we can put together a new statistical report for next month that will have a bit of a different look to it. It'll provide a more rounded picture that includes some of the social issues that we respond to in terms of numbers. And it will have a glossary there that gives you a better, deeper dive on some of those community breakdowns so that you understand what fits in those categories.
Awesome, thank you. And the last question I have, and this is something since I've been on council, I've kind of questioned, is the area of the city and how those areas are determined on that map. Because I'll just speak from the area that I know, Ward 4, there's University Park and then there's Gardner Park. So they both are on the other side of Arcola, and then that's how the data's covered. But there's so many communities in there, and the Greens on Gardner has been a big one. But it just kind of falls in with Gardner Park. So people see that and they say, gee, Gardner Park, we've got huge crime in our, but I see other areas of the city where it's been broken down, not just one big area in two sections. So Is that something that could be considered through the chair?
Sure, yeah, I think we could look at that. I'll be honest, I don't know the history as to how those sections were chosen, and you know, I know that I've had discussions with past board members and council members who are frustrated that, you know, I represent the downtown and the numbers are through the roof because the courthouse is downtown, and so every breach charge gets attributed to my area, which is not truly indicative of crime. It makes it look like the crime rate is higher, right? Areas that have the general hospital or the Pasqua Hospital might see an increase just by virtue of the fact that they have that location in their zone. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm not real sure about how those were broken down, but we can certainly have a discussion, and if there's any certain requests, you know, I think our goal is to try and give you an idea of what each area is experiencing in terms of challenges. And if there's ways that we can refine that to be more accurate and give you a better indication of that, then that's something that we're happy to look at.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Through the chair. Chief Bray, in the past you've attributed to this dramatic decline in crime to COVID, whether it's income supports, fewer people being around, and so on. What do you foresee for 2021? Are we going to see a maintenance of this, up or down? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I mean, I'm not backing away from my comments, but I'll just clarify that I definitely think COVID played a role in probably a variety of different ways. I don't know that anyone can definitively say for sure this is what happened. I was just on a Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police call, and I heard chiefs from Ottawa to Vancouver saying the same thing. Crime rates were down, but you know, we're all kind of singing from the same song sheet. If people are at home for either working from home or sadly without a job, then they're not out as much, and it takes away some opportunities and might present others. So I do think that there is some sort of a link to COVID, but we're all kind of shooting at a target, missing and hitting from time to time. In terms of 2021, really our goal is to try and not be too distracted from the work that we're already doing. I've mentioned before, but I mean, Deputy Chief Ray, along with our superintendents, really do a daily focus on crime trends, being reactive. I think our arsons are a good example. We saw some real flare-ups, excuse the pun, in our arson problem last year, and some very quick response, investigative operational response, held a person accountable for the majority of them and prevented any further ones from happening. So knowing that we've seen some great successes, for example, we'll use theft of autos. So we've seen some great successes when it comes to decreases in those numbers. Some of it could be related to COVID, but there's some real incredible work that's going on with corrections, with providing some community support to try and track some of those high-risk offenders, that there's things that can be done to interject so that they don't reoffend. It's when it comes to stolen autos, it's not a huge group of people that do the large amount of those crimes, and so there is an ability to work with community partners on that. I think, you know, the challenge becomes if all of a sudden crime rates start to go up along with other challenges as the world opens up again. It's sometimes our capacity to do some of that corrections monitoring in the community can be a bit challenging because we've got other things that we're working on. So I think I'm giving you a very long answer, which is probably my MO.
It's an accurate answer.
To the fact that, you know, we will be committed to trying to work on the trends that we saw effective in 2020 in holding the rates down and working collaboratively. One of the things that we're going to talk about later in the meeting is some of the collaborative work that we're doing with community partners to try and dig into those social issues. Those are big time consumers for our police, and so if there's ways we can dig into those with some of our community partners, I think we get really good bang for our buck in terms of allowing our police resources to then focus on these true crime-related issues in our community. So I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, you'd hinted at updating how you're going to present some of this crime data. If that's the case, I have two requests, and you can just comment on whether or not it's feasible. One would be that you would include clearance rates by category, if not in real time, which I would understand at the very least, paired next to homicide, attempted murder, and so on. It would be useful to see the average clearance rate for a year, and that could change year over year, but I think it would give us an accurate sense of not only the calls for service, but the effectiveness of the response. And secondly, if it would be possible to include an overdose dashboard in future reporting of crime stats. I know there's some sensitivity around that issue, but I'm just a question if it's feasible.
Sure. So, want to slide that over here, Dean? Thanks. So we have a daily overdose dashboard that I realize you're not going to be able to see it. I just want to dazzle you with the shapes on the page. But basically daily we get updates from our staff on overdoses in the city. So this one is from 2020, and it shows that we had 1,103 overdose occurrences reported to emergency service personnel in the city. So those are not including overdoses, obviously, that are unreported, and we know that number is probably at least that number, if not more. So we definitely have those numbers at our fingertips. This isn't a new report, so we can definitely find a way that we can add that in. That's information that we're on top of daily. In fact, we've had 2-3 calls locally and nationally with regard to the overdose and opioid crisis in the community just in the last few days. And so this is a big one for us as well. So definitely we can include that. Back to your clearance rate suggestion, that is something we'll be able to do. I don't know that the challenge is, you mentioned kind of a real time or whether that's possible. The problem with clearance rates is we won't be able to clear a homicide from 2020 sometimes till 2022. I can tell you, and I know I've talked about this before, but in the last 3 years, we've been able to lay a charge and solve every one of the homicides that we've had in our city. I think generally what you'll see is our clearance rates when it comes to crimes against people are very high. So if an assault, a robbery, a threatening, those types of things occur, our ability to hold the offender accountable is very, very high. At one time, we were the best in Western Canada. I still know that our numbers are definitely up there. Typically, property crime is a lot tougher, right? Someone spray paints your garage and you call in to report it to police. The chances or the ability for us to hold an offender accountable in those cases, a theft from a car, those situations are a little bit more ambiguous. And sometimes we get some investigative trends that allow us to hold one person accountable for a variety of those offenses, but it is a little bit more challenging. So we definitely, I've got your points here, overdose stats and clearance rates. We will find a way to weave that into our reporting as well.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to hop on at this particular point, and Commissioner Stevens, I just have a question for you. Always being careful of folks' time and the resources available for reporting. What's the data point in terms of the clearance rate you're looking for, like in a bigger picture element, as opposed to just curiosity on an annualized or whatever update? What's the reasoning behind that clearance rate data point?
My impression is, I mean, numbers are just numbers unless you make sense of them and you have them tell a story. Similarly with the clearance rate, it also demonstrates the effectiveness of investigations, existing resources. So there's how many calls for service. I think it would be important for both the public and for us as commissioners to make good decisions, to understand the implications and the seriousness of some of these offenses, to see, even if it's just an annual side-by-side comparison. I'm not asking for extra work. That work's already being done. I'm just looking for that data to be in there.
Sure. So to that point, there is an annual, Deputy Chief Ray just mentioned to me, the CCJS stats come out on an annual basis, and they include reporting on clearance rates. So maybe we'll start with that as a baseline. That can give you a bit of a snapshot of, they're always about a year behind, so it'll give you a snapshot of where we're at compared to the rest of Canada. And you know, we can talk a little bit about some of the areas where it's stronger numbers than it is in others. You know, a lot of the work that police do, clearance rates aren't applicable, right? Because going to a domestic conflict where there's no assault charge or there's no criminal charge, how do you clear that, right? That is cleared not by a charge, but it's just simply cleared, maybe it's referred to another service provider, no different than a person overdosing on drugs. We're going to respond to that, but there won't necessarily be a clearance attached to it. And sadly, that's a large number of our calls. So when we talk clearance rates, we're typically talking about crime where we've laid a charge and our success, our ability to hold an offender accountable and get it processed through the court. But anyway, those numbers exist and we can put some information together on that.
Thanks. Did that answer the question?
Are there any other questions from anyone else regarding the reports? Nothing in from Commissioner Paul? Nothing? Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, could I get a motion to, I guess we'll do the first one first. We can do them both at the same time. A motion to receive and file P021-1. Thank you, Commissioner Yee. And a motion to receive and file P021-2. Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Moving on to P021-3, the summary and analysis of social media engagement.
Thank you, Mayor Masters. Very seldom am I going to have extra information to give you with this report. This is really just provided as a bit of a snapshot with regard to our communication that we've done through the media section and through social media. We, again, as the commission members that were at the board meeting in December will remember, this is a revised, renewed look at this report. Typically before, what we used to do is just, for lack of a better term, cut and paste social media posts. This is more analytics behind what were the top posts, what were the things that garnered the most attention. And so these may be positive, they may be negative things. At the end of the day, this just talks about what the community was reflecting as important in terms of the work that we had put out. Talks about news releases, talks about engagements with the public. So I don't have any extra information to give you today, and as a rule, I probably won't have much to add to this report. It's really just there to give the board a flavor of what's happened over the last month and what our media engagement has looked like through social media and our beloved traditional media, who I know are here with us today. That's why I said beloved, Mark. Okay, thanks.
Sorry, Commissioner Stevens?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this. To the mayor's comment about workload issues, I appreciate this, but I also know how strapped your officers and non-uniform staff members are. If I were to, and I say this respectfully, is it worth your time to have someone canvass social media just to say how well liked or not the police are? Because I think of the brain trust that is the RPS, I would love to see that expertise talk about, we put out a call for a missing child, and I see these emails and tweets all the time. I'd love to see how effective that is as a strategy. So no offense to this, I just think I would love to see your expertise put to work, providing us with a meaningful snapshot of how effective social media is for you doing your basic job, which is serving the community.
So, yeah, I appreciate that comment, and sometimes I think that's hard to know. It's hard to measure. I mean, unless someone says, hey, I saw the tweet and I know this girl is in the house at such and such an address. Sometimes social media helps us, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know, and I'm looking over to Elizabeth, but I'm assuming that a lot of this isn't a week's load of work for someone to put this together. This is stuff that the analytics exist already, and they basically, now that the format has been put together like this, they're able just to kind of put in some new pictures and whatever. So I'm guessing this isn't a huge piece of work. That being said, you know, that's something that we've talked about before. For example, leaving your keys in the car. We, as Saskatchewan Association of Chiefs of Police, spent good money on a campaign to try and educate the Saskatchewan people that it's best not to leave your keys in the car while it's running because people steal it when you do that. And then the follow-up was, as chiefs, we said, okay, can we measure this? Like, how successful was this? Did this help us? And it was a lot of effort to really come up with the conclusion that it was really hard to measure. So maybe there's some offline takeaways that we can look at and we could include in this reporting, or we could provide different types of reporting along with this. But unless there's something specific that you wanted to talk about now, I do think we use it as a tool. It's a tool to try and get information out. Everything from finding a vulnerable person who's missing in our community to locating a high-risk offender who's in the community, and we need to have the public's help in locating that person before someone else is hurt. And so it might be hard to measure, but it's something that we're willing to have a chat about for sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bresciani?
Thank you. To you, Madam Chair. So just, again, I really appreciate the information that is shared on social media, because as councillors, we can repost it, and it does enforce the things that we're working on in the community as well. And the one that you raised, Chief, was regarding, people, the break-in enters that were happening in the community. And so it was kind of a reminder. It's the same with people driving in the snow. Even again, the one where the individual, he is a high-risk offender. It just kind of brings everybody, some alert, right? And it's a reminder. I appreciate those. Again, if there is anything more that do other police organizations, other police, they collect this data as well, I'm sure, and utilize it, for their own purpose. But I appreciate it. I agree with Councillor Stevens. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of work, but I think it's good, and I think it's important that residents see this on social media and they can repost it, and it's an educational piece. I mean, I don't know, how many followers do we know we have on?
That actually might be in this report. I think it might be
Okay.
in the report, but
That's fine.
A lot of times we use it to try and bring clarity and fact to rumor and innuendo that's floating around on social media, and that happens often in high-risk cases or high-profile cases. Things start floating around on social media. Like with regard to a missing person, let's say, there will be all kinds of information that may not be factual, and so having the Regina Police Service send a tweet out, a Facebook message, whatever, that says, here is what we know and here's what we don't know. It sometimes will calm down some of those rumors that can get going based on, just basically the power of social media.
Yeah, and I guess just through this data, has there been anything that we've learned that we can do better just by collecting this data that we've improved on? Through the chair?
I don't know if I have a direct answer to that. I probably with some time I could come up with a few things, but what I will say, we've enhanced our relationship and our communication with the community in many ways. But social media is kind of like stats. It cuts both ways, and it's not always fun either, social media. And so we've learned some lessons that way as well. So maybe I'll leave my comments there, but clearly this is something we can engage in a better conversation with. We'll put some thought into what Councillor Stevens brought up, and we'll have this discussion at our next meeting.
Yeah, no, that's good. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Seeing none, could I get a motion to receive and file report 21-3? Thank you, Commissioner Githner. I do have to call all in favor. See, I'm catching up eventually here. All in favor? Thank you. We did have one addition to the agenda that was missed when the package was printed, and it was 21-4 that Elaine Golke had sent out as well, which was the consideration of meeting dates and times for 2021. And I think, would you like a motion? Elaine, what would you like? You want a motion to receive and file? Okay. Elaine would like a motion to approve the dates as considered within PO 21-4. Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Yee. I'll just leave it with if anyone has any questions before I call a vote. Go ahead.
Thank you. The reason the time change from 9 till 2, can I just ask the reason for that? Oh, is that for, okay. Work
I'll let her
schedule?
answer.
That was to allow for Commissioner Stevens' schedule,
Okay.
teaching schedule.
Okay. Thank you. All about
Does anyone have any questions or concerns about the motion? The meeting time states. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Thank you. I believe next on my list would be a resolution for private session. Okay, folks, we are welcome to take a 10-minute break. Take a 10-minute break, or how about 4:05? We'll come back to it.